I was there to map one of the most important industries. When it's working well for Ukraine, their export gain is $5 billion every month.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 243. In this episode, we delve into the experiences of a friend from the Swedish maritime cluster who went on an assignment to Ukraine earlier this year. Erik Froste, who is the CEO of the Swedish Roadferries, collaborated with the European Union Advisory Mission for Civilian Security Sector Reform Ukraine. That is EUAM for short. And that is an organization established at the Ukrainian authorities' invitation in 2014. Erik's experiences offer a unique and enlightening perspective for the global maritime industry. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. Listen to Erik Froste and what happened in Ukraine when he was there.
Every conversation matters.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Erik Froste, and normally I'm working with the Swedish Roadferries here in Sweden. But the last half year, I've been working in the European mission in Odesa in Ukraine instead.
What is your background?
From beginning, I'm a master mariner. So I was working at ship, at the sea, going out working when I was 17, getting 18 in Yokohama in Japan, and then continue working at sea until I was 30 years old. Then I went to shore, started working as a forwarder, port agent, various things like mainly forwarding, and then turning a little more into the ports. Later on working managing director, CEO at one of the Swedish ports, and later on another one, and running shipping lines after that. And right now then, the Swedish Roadferries is governmentally owned, but Swedish biggest shipping line with 70 vessels, small double-ended road ferries, so 110 meters long, 60 cars vessels. So I would say that I do know the shipping industry quite a lot.
And you work a lot for electrification.
Yeah, absolutely. And the environment and getting this major shift from diesel to various kinds of energy. For us, reasonably short trips, not so fast vessels. Electricity, battery is very convenient, so we're going for that one. If we were on a different kind of shipping line, a container line between Stockholm and down to Rotterdam, or a conventional break bulk from Antwerp over to US West Coast, there would be something different. But for us, electricity and battery, that's the way we are taking our part in order to save the environment.
But as you said, we're here to talk about your latest adventure.
Yeah. Now over to something completely different.
Yes. I was surprised when you told me, but then again, I am impressed now. So you have been 6 months to the Ukraine. How come? How did that happen?
Yeah, how did that happen? It was last summer, almost 1 year ago. They called me. I was on my summer place, my dacha. And someone called me from Brussels and asked if I would be interested in helping out Ukraine. Mapping what is needed for Ukraine, both to get closer to Europe, but mainly getting into European Union. So doing that mapping, and at the same time, of course, it is really, at that time, Russia had just decided not to prolong the agreement of the grain export. So at that time, most of the ports, Ukrainian Black Sea ports, were closed. And that is, of course, a huge impact on their economy. So at that time, it was kind of critical as well.
So it was 1 year ago. They were 1 year into the war already.
Exactly. Well, the war, the full-scale invasion, as we say properly, that started in February 22. The war started actually 8 years before. But 1 year and 4 months into the full-scale invasion.
What did you think when they called you? Wrong number? Or
Well, of course, many thoughts. And this is one of the lifetime opportunities. You can't say no. My kids, I have 4, they are grown up. They don't need me if the worst thing would happen, so to say.
Don't say that.
No, they are happy I'm home, yeah. At least they claim so. But what I think, nice type of opportunity. Of course, I said yes. But then also I had, maybe not an important, but I have a job here. So I have to sort out who's taking my job when I'm away half a year. And when I spoke to him, my financial manager, he said, yeah, okay, I do not retire. I stay another year so you can go and have fun. So I'm very grateful for that as well.
And then what? I heard that you were going for a training camp.
Ukraine is a country in war, and it is really war. You have air alerts twice per day. There are missile attacks. There are drone attacks. People are dying. So it's not like going in a mission and somewhere else. It is. I was never afraid for my life, but of course you need some training, absolute understanding what to do when the shit hits the fan, really. And so, yes, I've been in various kind of training and, of course, reading a lot. Trying to understand what is happening, why it is happening, so I can later on have a proper speak with the counterparts. So, so the autumn was planning, preparing, little training, and then a lot of vaccines and various things. And then in January, we go after Christmas.
You say a little bit of training, but I met you and you said, I've been trained not to be higher up in a building than 2 floors, and how to avoid mines and things. It's... Yeah. It was more than a little bit of training, Erik.
Yeah, that is true. It is really so. Every morning I go out running, even when I'm in Odesa. I was there now 5 months, but only in the asphalt, only the hard areas. Even in Odesa, you do not go out in the forest because there's risk. It have been a drone and dropped in small mines. So you do it on asphalt, really hard concrete where you see. And and all those things you do not normally have in your head, of course. What to do when the air alert starts, what to think, not getting tracked by your cell phone, using VPN tunnels from one phone to another, having a satellite telephone backup, having a burner. And I am an extremely civilian guy.
Yes, I know.
So all this was very, very new for me. I am not one of these military interested guys, not at all. No. I've only been in the commercial vessels. So it's setting the mindset right.
But did that give you any hesitation when you were at that camp?
No, learning is fun.
Yes, I know. But I was just thinking that maybe you saw... you probably thought it through before, but the seriousness must have...
It was impossible to understand before. It was, I wouldn't say fun before, but I knew I was coming to a country in war. But I also know I was working for the European Union advisory mission, EUAM Ukraine. They have the responsibility and the safety and so on. There is a professional organization there. It's not like I'm going just airdropped out and it's something completely different. There are people that speak English, those in the European Union advisory, EUAM. They do speak English, they understand, they have been there. But also saying that in Kiev, that's safe. Like in Israel, Iron Dome, no problem there if you stay downtown. But in Odesa, it's different where I stayed.
So how was it to arrive there? What did you experience? How did you feel when you were dropped there?
Getting into Ukraine, there's no airplane. Of Of course not, because they got shut down. So you go to Poland normally, and then you have a 10 or 12-hour drive up to Kiev. You could also take the overnight train. Take a little longer, 20 hours or something like that. And at the first time you got the first air alert, you really think, okay, should I put on my vest, my security vest and my helmet? But no, you don't. Should we bring the gas mask closer to us? I mean, all those, which now is extremely stupid question. At that time, they were not. But at the same time, driving them, first time I was driving up to Kiev, 12 hours drive, as I mentioned, stopping at the first petrol station, buying great coffee, strong, like Swedish coffee, and the petrol station was so full of things. There were no empty shelves, no nothing. It was better than here in Sweden. It is surrealistic all the time. The whole first couple of weeks was my brain was, I don't know, it didn't work. You hear the air alert, you read the reports, people are dying, and the front, they're dying 1,000 or 1,200 Russians every day. And now I'm sitting eating a good restaurant, eating a good dinner and a bottle of red wine. Yeah, life is good.
Yeah, you texted me, and I almost didn't believe you at that time, but I understand that life must go on. I mean, that is what I read and hear from the people within Ukraine, even though it's so unthinkable.
Yeah. In Kiev is one thing. There's a lot of, not tourists, but ambassadors and NGOs and things. People like me are a lot in Kiev. So up there, people at the restaurant, some are speaking English. Not a lot, but some at least. Go another 6 hours down south again, down to the Black Sea, Odesa, where I stay. I had an apartment. There, basically, nobody is speaking English. So life is a little more complicated. I was hoping I would, well, maybe not getting friends, but at least getting people to. But it is hard with this language barrier. I do not speak Russian. I do not speak Ukrainian. So all the meeting with the counterparts, we have to have interpreter with us all the time. I ask a question, and he 1 minute speak maybe, and he or she translated Ukraine. Counterparts on the other side, 2, 3, 4 persons from the government or whatever. They think a little, and then they speak back in Ukraine or Russian, and then he translates. So all the meetings, in quick meetings, take 1.5, 2 hours, and the longer 4 hours. And the same outside. We go in a restaurant. Sure, I can. Thank God, it's extremely digital. So you use a QR code and you point what you want to have to eat. It's very easy. It's very good. But it's not like you can speak with everyone.
So how were you greeted with the authorities you were supposed to work with? What did they think when you just turned up?
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, I was there to map one of the most important industries. When it's working well for Ukraine, their export gain is $5 billion every month. And that is what they need in order to support the society work. And that is actually what both the European Union and US are giving Ukraine right now. So getting the export up and running again is extremely important. And I'm there to mapping this industry that makes this happen. But first, when I went to Kiev as I mentioned first, and then I'm meeting your authority and getting the accreditation that I was allowed to work there. I was not there as a tourist. I was accredited from the government. I'm there. And it was very clear that someone high up in the organization say, this is important, because basically every time, every meeting, we were extremely welcomed, and they were giving a lot of information, too much information, really. I know a lot of things that I will not mention here and not in my reports, because they were really trying to help me in order to help them, so to say. The Ukraine need to change their legislation towards European Union. They must do the work themselves. But European Union people, well, people smarter than I, they of course need to be there and helping them doing that, explaining this is how the system is working in the European Union. So very welcome.
And what did you learn?
I mean, what I was doing was basically meeting authorities, ports, private operators, state-owned terminal operators, forwarders, port agents, but also the government, also the maritime authority, the port, Ukraine Seaport Authority, USPA, and Custom, and Coast Guard, and the Navy. And we have more than 60 different counterparts we were meeting down there. And most of them we meeting 2 and some 3 and 4 and 5 times. So asking questions, writing down and trying to understand, making a puzzle in our heads. And then, next one, we make check question, is this possible? How is that working? And so on. I mean, this is not a 5 years course on the university or high school building. This is the experience where we have been there, asking a lot of questions and trying really to mapping the system. And this is what needs to be done in order to get closer to Europe and inside the European Union. And what we learned, well, many things, of course. But before saying it, one thing that we need to, before we continue what I found, I mean, Ukraine is not like one of these not so developed countries that we are sending a lot of money to, both from Europe and US. These are highly skilled, highly trained, and highly digital country. So speaking with them, except the language barriers, it's really easy. And also, they do want to get out from the Russian sphere. They want to come closer to Europe. So most of the thing was quite easy to discuss. We knew the goal, so to say. And they quicker adapt and make a new digital app than any country in Europe does. So
you're soon going to find us behind when it comes to digital development.
There is 100,000 seafarers in Ukraine. It's the second biggest country in the world. Every year, they're graduating 7,500 officers in Ukraine. It's huge.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So absolutely, and they are all highly skilled. But the problem is maybe not the legislation. The problem with the people that are in command, so to say, which are in my age, a little older, and they're coming from the Russian system. Mm-hmm. It is only 30 years they became a country. You can see the legislation, you can see the administration, you can see the bureaucracy. It's still a heritage from Russia. It's changing rapidly, but you can still see it. We can see sometimes the same, or we can many times see the same. I am in charge of this little box, and I'm sending information up to my boss, and I do not care what he or she does with it. And this is the Russian style. Mm. We have it in Western as well, of course, but this is really, do not do anything extra because you're only going to be blamed if something goes wrong. And we see that. So changing that culture, that is a long-term goal.
Yeah. So what does your report say back to the European Union?
Yeah. First of all, that Ukraine is a huge shipping country. That is one thing. As I mentioned, 100,000 seafarers, but not a flag state. Mm. They have basically no vessels with an own flag, which is interesting. They had a huge education system in order to both the AB and the officers, and they have ratified a lot of the IMO regulations. Thank you, but maybe not. I would say IMO have to, of course, do their own report about that, but they are not all included in the bylaw. For instance, is there an oil pollution? It is hard to find who is in charge of picking it up from the Black Sea. So there are things that need to be done. And this is not only Ukraine, I would say. If you look at the countries around the Black Sea, it's probably similar. It is an interesting fact, actually. We are living here up in Northern Europe. We are very used to the Baltic Sea. And just to make comparison, as I always said, that the Black Sea down there and the Baltic Sea up here, it's the same size. The Black Sea is 10% bigger. It's the same number of countries around this Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. The number of people are living around is also the same. And the traffic with the vessels are a little more up in here, Baltic, but it's huge also down there. And there is a narrow sound in order to get out of both the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. So there are a lot of similarities.
But we never think about them.
We never think about it. There is one huge difference. The Baltic Sea, the average depth here, the average depth is 65 meters. The average depth in the Black Sea is 1,600. So it's 23 times more water in the Black Sea. And this is my guess, that's the reason why we never heard about any environmental disasters in the Black Sea. So far, the huge amount of water have managed to handle it. But that will change because, of course, there are oil spillage there as well, and there's no organization taking care of it. I'm not talking only about Ukraine, but all the countries around the Black Sea. And that is something that needs to be handled by the countries around the Black Sea.
And the IMO.
In Baltic Sea, we have the HELCOM, Helsingfors Convention, and so on. In Black Sea, there were cooperation, Black Sea Forum, I think, but they haven't had a meeting for 6 years, of course, due to war. But still, there have been many wars in that region. Many of those countries have been running over each other for the last 300 years. And they have not really forgot that yet. And now there is war again. But now at least there's only one country having war. So we need someone to be the catalyst in order to start the cooperation again.
At one time you also told me about the river.
Yeah.
Going through Ukraine.
Today there are 5 big seaports in Ukraine, in the Black Sea. The rest is then, what we say, temporarily occupied by Russia. The whole Crimea, the Crim Island, and also in the Azov Sea. They are, as you know, temporarily occupied by Russia. So now there are only 5 ports. 3 of them, what we call Greater Odesa. It is Pivdeny, Odesa, and Chornomorsk. Each of these ports are handling 2.5 to 3 million tons of grain every month. So rather big ports. And then they are down at what we call Danube, that is Donau. But Danube, we have Ismail and Reni, 2 Ukrainian big ports for handling normally 500,000 tons of grain export every month. Of course, they have other export and all import as well as any ports. But this is that most people and countries are most interested, of course, the grain from Ukraine is supporting basically the huge part of parts of the world in order to avoid starvation. So it is important. So those 5 ports, 2 in Danube and 3 in the Black Sea, we could talk a little about the grain corridor.
Yes, please. Be my guest.
That I am, that I what I feel of like. After the full-scale invasion, February 22, Putin agreed, okay, we can allow some export out of Ukraine. The pressure towards Russia was really, really hard due to the starvation problem, that Egypt and other countries were actually not getting grain to feed the people. So Putin allowed some export out of Ukraine, and so going the shortest way through the Black Sea. But the Russian, we need to inspect all the vessels so they are not fully with anything, probably weapon, whatever, just to make life complicated. At that time, that was from July 22 to July 23, basically. They handled at that time export 2.7 million tons every month of grain. But then last July, Putin said, no, I don't want to extend this anymore. We close it, so no more official grain agreement between United Nations, Ukraine, and Russia and Turkey. We stopped that. And the day after it stopped, Russia sent more than 300 missiles and drones to all these 5 ports I mentioned in order to crash all the ports' infrastructure. That was done in the second half of July last summer. And he managed to some extent. It's not easy to take out the port, it's concrete, but you can take out the grain silos, the oil storage, everything, the trucks, rail cars, the VTS station. 4 of the VTS were getting the missiles straight in, and people died in each of these places that night. Ukraine, they are not stupid people. They are actually very, very bright and entrepreneurs. So what did they do? First step was then to take back the Snake Island, Maritime Island. That is at the entrance of the Danube. The one who's controlling the Snake Island is controlling the Danube entrance, the mouth of Danube out to the Black Sea. They took it back and put air defense on it. It sounds like an easy thing to do, but believe me, people died also there, and it was not. Russia have been trying to take it back many times. Okay, that was step one. And then they could start, and that is the entrance in Danube. So then they could start using the ports down at Danube, Ismail and Reni. Normally, as I mentioned, they can have a handle of 500,000 tons per month. Now, during these first months, from August, September, October, they handle 1 million tons of grain each every month. You can imagine the queue of trucks and rail cars and things going on there. And everyone that's been working in the port can feel the doubling the volumes overnight. It's needed something. And at the same time, have continuous missile and drone attacks. When I say a missile, that is something extremely fast and huge, taking out houses, really houses. While a drone, it is not a small drone like a small helicopter. It is a Shahid drone, which is 6-7 meters long and 300 kilos of explosive, what we call a mopedo, two-stroke engines. It sounds like a mopedo. Yeah, so you get, it's not small drones, it's big drones. Starting up in those two ports, August, September, October, and then Russia there were maybe 1 or 2 vessels going up to Greater Odesa, which is closer to Crimea. But Russia had planes that were putting out mines. They were dropping mines. At that time, they still had a lot of vessels in the Black Sea, military vessel. So Ukraine started to take out the military vessel, one after one. You probably read about it. And also there were 2 airplanes they identified that could drop glide mines. Mines dropped, and then so they can glide into the fairways. So they took out those 2 planes. I mean, very dedicated what to do in open air corridor. So, and then later on, they started, of course, taking away these, the mines that were still in the Black Sea. And they don't have minesweepers, so they actually do manually diving down, taking them away. Not anything I would do. There are brave people over there. So, and then they started collecting grain, and also one more thing, insurance. The Ukraine government, together with the British company, I think, to Mars, they have made an insurance, war insurance for the cargo and the vessel, 100% cargo value and 100% vessel value. And it was Ukraine government that were arranging this, taking to Mars, and then 10, 11 subcontractors on there. And the way there was ship owners there to sending vessels up to also the Greater Odesa, closer to Crimea. But then getting close to the Bulgaria border, NATO country, close to the Romania border, inside the territorial water. And then up to Snake Island, protected by the air defense, and continue on the Ukrainian territorial water, really sneaking the coast, and then up there. And stopping in Snake Island before entering Ukraine, and inspection, and extremely strict instruction from the military and so on and so on. And then a convoy on the civilian vessel, search and rescue vessel first and search and rescue vessel after, and then going up to the Greater Odesa, the 3 ports there I mentioned earlier. And then another inspection up there, and then taken in like an only work in night time. And of course, once again, there's still attack. So everything, there's air alert. The dock workers, the stevedores, they go down to the shelter and stop working. And then when it's over, they come out and stop working. And now, as I mentioned, then the United Nations grain agreement, that they managed to put out 2.7 million tons of grain every month. Now, since November, December, January, February, March, and April, the average has been 8 million tons of grain. So they are up in pre-war volumes, and that is thanks to, well, they're doing something good over there. And still, I am impressed.
Yeah.
It is something different. This being there, I was living in Odesa. I mean, I've been hearing the alarms, of course. I've been seeing the drones. I've been hearing the drones. I've been seeing and hearing the air defense. Of course, at least here in most countries around here, we have like on the walls in the city, you can hear if there is an air alert or alert for something else. In Ukraine, those things are as well, but you do have an app. That's what you have. So this is the sound when the app is starting to work.
Attention!
But there are so many air alerts, so this doesn't mean that you run down to the shelter. And in Odesa is twice a day. In other parts, much more. In western parts, not so often. And so what you do when you hear this, then you bring up your phone. If you're in an office, a government, or shopping mall, you're forced to leave. You're not allowed to be there by the law. So then, but what you see is people going out to the streets and bring in the phone and go into Telegram, the platform Telegram, and then we are following different channels there, military channels and other channels, and they are explaining what is actually happening. Oh, it's only a MiG start taking off. It's a MiG taking off close by Ukraine. There's air alert all over Ukraine. But it's only a MiG, then it doesn't matter. You're still not allowed to go back to your office, but then you don't worry about it. Go and have a cup of coffee or something. If there is a missile living in Odesa and the missile from Crimea, it's 1 minute. Okay, then you're in kind of a hurry. A missile, that's bad. And if there's only a Iranian Shahid drone, then you normally from Crimea to Odesa have 15 minutes. So then you have a little more time. And also, of course, thinking about, is it coming where I am standing, or is it coming 50K away from me, or 100K away from me? And when this happened in the night time, you're in your bed, 1:30 in the night, you're just falling asleep, and this sound starts, of course it does. And then you bring in your phone, and then, okay, there is a drone attack, or maybe a drone and missile attack. And then you're in your bed, okay, should I go down to the shelter? Will I not get in sleep? And it's cold and not so cozy. No, I'll stay in my bed. And then you follow those Telegram channels, and it's okay, it's coming here. You get a little stressed. Okay, it's turned again, going over there. And you get, okay, now it is shelling over some other place in Chernomorsk, not in Odesa. Good for me, bad for them. And then the new reports come, okay, it's coming here this way. So you're laying there in your bed, listening to, looking into the Telegram channels, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And then, okay, it's all over. And then you're supposed to fall asleep again. It's a crazy world. So this is really one of the hardest things, lack of sleep. Even if there were no alerts, you were expecting alerts. I have one of these smart watches, and I could see how my health was really going down, down, down. And then I was back home a few weeks. I could breathe normally again, and then going in again. So it's a lot of stress on your body. It's interesting and scary.
I have no words.
No, it's really strange sitting here and remembering all those things again, how it really still is for all the Ukrainian people.
Mm-hmm.
I have been sitting having a dinner, and there have been a missile attack 700 meters away from me. People have been dying. In the morning, I would go out and do my morning jog, my running, which is not, there's a curfew there, so you have to be home, no one in the street between midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning. But after that, you can do your morning jog. And sometimes you, of course, run close to where there have been drone attacks.
Erik, how do you feel now?
It's good to be home.
Yes, I can understand that, but...
What I was worried about there was not my life, but I was worried, okay, I make a nice little report and sending it to the mission down to Brazil, and nothing will happen. That was worried. So all this half year wasted, and I can waste half a year. I'm not that old, but Ukraine can. They need to start doing it. And they are doing it already, but doing the right direction. But now when I'm home, I've been here in Sweden, and hopefully going to Brussels and meeting people and meeting authorities. It is not wasted. Things are happening. People are not only looking to the military stuff anymore, they're also looking more and more to the civilian stuff. People like you and me like to hear about the commercial navy, the ports, the authority, the IMO, the ratification, all those, the EMSA, which is a maritime authority here in the European Union. The digital system that is compulsory if you are getting the European Union country, they will most likely getting there as well. So I'm feeling quite confident.
How do you see the future for them? How will they be included in our system or part of the maritime universe?
I think that's up to us. I strongly believe they will be part of the European Union. As you probably know, European Union is like 35 chapters you have to put in your own national legislation. And it's not a negotiation. If you want to be joining our club, you have to fulfill that period. And of course, this will take some time, but they are doing it. They are doing it rapidly. So they will get there. And then when European Union is letting them in, I don't know, but it will happen because there is no alternative. But getting into the maritime where we normally work, that's up to us. We have to invite them. They need us. They need to see how we are doing. I mean, once again, these are bright people. And time goes 3 times as fast in war situation as the Navy learning down there. Invite them. Ask them. Help them. They don't have money. You need to pay for the trips. But I'm sure most of us can handle that some way. Getting, I don't know, where is it? Reach out to the schools, reach out to the authority, reach out to the port authorities. And the thing is that this is not only we giving to them. They are so good. They have managed to get their ports running 3 times the capacity during war situation. There is something for us to learn there. So it's not only we giving, us learning as well.
I think you're right. And it's always good to think outside the box, as we know. How is the Ukrainian people? You have often chatted with me about that. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, it's different. Also that. For first, it was a country with 45 million people. Now it is maybe 35, maybe 30, nobody knows. The eastern parts, temporarily occupied by Russia. And a lot of those people that could or managed or could afford it have left the occupied or the eastern part, coming more to the center and to the west. And of course, many people have left for other European countries, absolutely. When the full-scale invasion started 2 years and 4 months ago, a lot of family left Ukraine, went to other European countries. But after a couple of months, they understood, well, we will not lose full Ukraine. There will still be. So then some family members went back to Ukraine in order to have a job. But not the children, of course, and not the husband, not the man in the family, because they were afraid forced to join the army. So the female, the mothers, they went back to Ukraine and started working. And that you can see if you're out in Ukraine. There are more females in various situations and in male, especially in the private sector. When I'm meeting private companies, there is a lot of strong, very dedicated women. In the authorities, it's men. It's a little more old style, like it still actually is here in Sweden and many places as well. There's nothing strange with that. But there is a lot of strong women there running a private company. As I mentioned, 100,000 seafarers. There's a lot of crewing companies over there and so on. And running the company, getting money, pay for the family, living in Estonia or Sweden or Poland, whatever. And also together with friends, colleagues, getting money together. So in night time, they arrange assembly line for drones, factories, sending to the front line. Buying things from Alibaba in China, getting a container or parts to Moldavia or Poland, going there, picking them up, and making big volumes of drones in the evening and night and sending to France. It's so interesting seeing all this.
They definitely deserve our support and our friendship if we can help them in any way.
Yeah. And we can absolutely say that we should have been, Europe and US should have been doing more, faster, earlier. Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, now it is going along the right direction. There is many long-term agreement now from US and Europe and other countries, also Australia and so on, both for money and for weapons. and better weapon, and then no more stop with the Ukrainian border. Also, you can bomb things outside the Ukrainian border and go to Russia. So many things are going the right direction. How the war is ending, well, I don't know. I'm not a military expert. Only thing I know is all wars are ending with an agreement. But that will not happen this year. And maybe not next year, hopefully next year, but it will take time. But before there, many people will die. Ukraine will have still a very cold and very rush winter. When I'm talking about it, feeling the sound in my head of the electric power generator standing outside the hotels and apartments and the restaurants, because there are planned or unplanned rolling electric power breaks. So keep up the support for Ukraine, both the civilian side and the military side. We don't want the Russian closer to our borders.
What will you do now? Now you're back in Sweden.
Now I'm back in Sweden, my normal job. So, well, I am the CEO of the Swedish Roadferries. And hopefully I am implementing some new ways of doing that. Little more good enough. Little more, can we do it some other way? One thing I mentioned for friends, just some stupid was some, like bomb shelters. When we are talking about bomb shelters or air shelters in Sweden, we are thinking about huge concrete things. They are supposed to be safe for gas, safe for nuclear, all those. In Ukraine, we have understood that 99% of all things, 99.99 probably, it is someone is shooting down a drone or a missile, and we don't got everything is up there have to come down one way or another, and we don't want this in our head. So a shelter, a parking house, is a very good shelter. So when we had in the office, we had meetings. Okay, there's an air alert. We have to leave the office. We go down to the parking, 2 basements down, and then we have a table, conference table, and a heating, electricity element, and the Wi-Fi is working down there. That's good enough. So maybe it doesn't have to be 100% all the time. Maybe it's better to doing something good enough than nothing at all. Something we got in our boxes, as I complained about the Ukraine and the Russian style earlier. We are the same. So all those kind of things.
Mm. It's easy to be sitting in your own little world and look out. But it's another thing to be there and to actually have been a part of it.
Yeah.
I know I don't have the authority, Erik, but I would like to thank you from the Swedish people. No, but thank you for doing what you did for them. And thank you for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure both being there, and thank you for letting me come here and speaking and talking about this, because it's not over yet, and we have to continue giving support to Ukraine and Ukrainian people. Thank you for letting me say that.
Every conversation matters.
Thank you, Erik. I'm not sure that you have embraced everything yet that you have experienced. But I'm thankful that you wanted to share your story with my listeners. Global trade and shipping are our passions. Let's share some of our passion with the people in the Ukrainian maritime space. I'm sure that all of us can find a way to support imports and exports from there. Your role in this is crucial and empowering. That's all for now. We need some time to think about everything that Erik shared. Until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.